there, welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of May 13th, 2019. Yay! I'm Dusty Red, and with me as always,
Dusty White.
And we'll get right into this week's news. So on May 8th, the rock band Tool finally announces a release date for their long-anticipated album, nearly 13 years in fact, Eat the Elephant, which will release on August 30th, 2019. About damn time.
And it's official, the Mouse House grows. Disney's taking over Hulu. Just added as another Infinity Stone to the gauntlet that is the Mickey Mouse.
Either that, like, he's going to be ascend to this level of power, and then just become this Dark Souls boss of just like corrupted by his own power and insanity. We also have later this fall, on the heels of Game of Thrones' final season, HBO is going to take its stab, pardon the pun, at another facet of geek culture and do a TV series based on the comic of the same name, Watchmen. Fun little fact, Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails will actually be composing the music for this TV show.
Again with television, Picard series to stream internationally on Amazon Prime Video. Sir Patrick Stewart reprising his signature role as Jean-Luc Picard.
Make it so. And finally, we have in the Grey Muzzle Graveyard, unfortunately, we need to talk about the fact that legendary comedian Tim Conway, star of The Carol Burnett Show, has passed away on May 14th, 2019, at the age of 85. And legendary Hollywood starlet Doris Day has also passed away on May 13th, 2019, at the age of 97. I guess that concludes this week's
In the News.
So this week we have a little bit of a special episode, as we have done another recording on the road, because apparently I like paying gas prices a lot.
And actually we have our second ever guest, Becky. She's one of our listeners, ended up going with us on the Roadcast, and we got her involved in some of the fun.
And for when we're able to pull her out from behind all the gear that was in our backseat of the car, we kind of held the microphone back there and hoped that a little squeak would be able to pop out from like the sleeping bags and other things, because it was a cold weekend.
It was.
It was a very cold weekend. But yeah, so we have another LARPcast, a LARP Roadcast, I guess. But we do answer a lot of questions, a lot of user questions, primarily about females in the community, in the gaming community and nerd subculture. Also, have answered a question
of some costuming and what kind of things we like to do as our characters. So
hopefully you guys enjoy that that episode, and then next week we do a recap of our adventures out in Traverse.
TC.
We already know a TC, so Traverse City Alliance. And again, we've played at a bunch of different places and have a bit of experience under our belts, but it's different when now we're viewing it from a, hey, this will go on our podcast. Let's actually remember what we did this weekend.
Right.
So until then, we'll bid you all adieu, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. On the road again.
Yay, Roadcast.
Looks like we're back on the road again. I'm gonna have to change my oil pretty soon.
Always.
Once again, I'm on the damn road again. We encourage safe driving here at the Grey Muzzle Geekery podcast. Yay! So, we're back on the road. We're going to Traverse City, Michigan to play Alliance.
Is it Traverse or Traverse?
Traverse City. Oh, we're getting all British. Is there a U, a hidden U in Traverse?
Hey, we have somebody that would probably say would be okay with it having a U in it.
Oh.
Our fellow Canadian. Well, she's not Canadian. Well, yes, Canadian, not Canadian anymore.
Defector? So I got on the hunt for Red October and defected from Canada?
I don't know.
Oh, shit, you gotta get a Scotsman to sound like Sean Connery to be from Russia.
I was like,
or something.
does that make Inger Sean Connery?
He's got the beard. We're getting there. Anyway, so, as usual, I am Dusty Red, and with me,
Dusty White.
And we have a special guest in the back somewhere.
Yo! We have a blue.
We have a blue. As she pointed out, we have a red, white, and blue in the vehicle. Yeah, we have a hostage, kidnapping. I mean, special guest. You hear her pounding on the trunk back there. So, obviously we're doing a special roadcast because we got a 5-hour drive-ish. Long ass drive. And yeah, we're excited to play in Alliance Traverse City. Into the Traverse.
No.
No, okay.
No. Too close to Travis.
And as per usual, we will stick with listener questions and other such things because I am driving and therefore need to focus forward. Because once again, we encourage safe driving here at the Grey Muzzle Geekery podcast. And Dusty White is in the passenger seat. I still got my cough. Everybody out there is cringing. It's like, you have insurance, you dumb fuck. Go see a doctor. Even Brooks is like, go gargle some tea or something. Take care of yourself. Salt water? But my tears are salty enough. And yeah, so Dusty White, we're going to start rocking off with some of these listener questions. What do you got for us today, Vanna?
So, from our long list of listener questions from Travis, we have some LARP questions and possibly video game and movie questions. We'll see how they go.
Let's not go all over the map, because I know he has a tendency to go, woo! He even specifically wrote me and said, dear God, don't read them all in one go.
Okay, so we answered some of them last time, but to continue on some of those, best natural character moment you have ever known. Meaning an automatic response of your character, some action or decision you took that was completely natural and may have even surprised you after all was said and done.
You going first? Am I going first?
You go first.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things that's tough when you start trying to plot and scheme through years of playing in the different character modes. For me, it's obviously a bit easy to go into chase mode. It's one of those things that I find myself just high prey drive, as some would say. When somebody was like, just started running for me, it's like, I'm chasing them anyway, and blink and go, what the crap. However, I think thinking on this one a little bit, has to be the famous snow incident that we joke about when we played in Nero, Kalamazoo. And it was a nice snowy day, snowy week. And the trees out there held on to a lot of the snow and the branches. Well, at this point, the story of the land shocks began, where obviously I was playing a fox, and my friend Conky had a big mantle, a big hooded cloak to keep him warm. Well, I asked to borrow it from him, and for what was a mantle on him turned into a full-length bathrobe on me. Because I'm a tiny person. So I go disappear into the snow, and this monster ends up coming out of the woods near me. And basically has me dead to rights. Like, I have to fight this thing. Having fought a couple of them, I can't solo it. I was trying to do scout work and reconnaissance, and just wasn't working out. So I go to fight this thing, and as I'm looking around, kind of get into the mindset of I can't fight this thing. How do I survive this thing? And I look up and see a smaller tree just covered in snow. So this monster comes approaching me, and I kick the tree, which results in all the snow falling on this monster / NPC, this person, who then proceeds to scream out a number of profanities as I zip past him for safety. It was one of those moments I looked later and went, I can't believe I did that. I'm surprised he didn't just kill me for dumping snow on him. And had that the inner rogue would have absolutely done something like that long before I would have really thought of it.
I kind of attest that to almost blood sport with sand in its eyes. And go, ninja bomb. Smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb. Pocket sand. What about you, Dusty?
So I would probably have a couple of moments just because of
bragging over here.
It tends to be a very similar situation I find myself in as a ritual caster in Nero.
So, by ritual caster.
So formal magics happen in the LARPs that we play, the high fantasy LARPs that we play.
Which consists of you sitting in a circle for the most part, waving your arms.
Right, but I tend to like to roleplay it a bit more. So, if all possible, if my character is able to do the rituals outside, I have a go-to natural, quote-unquote, thing that I do enjoy doing, and I find myself afterwards doing the formal magic going, oh no, that was totally in character. And some of them is, I've done a ritual in a fire pit and ended up writing runes on my body.
I did see you come out and like you chinchillaed in a fire pit. And
yes.
I'm just like, why are you're like nature mage. I'm like, laundry bill, what is going on?
Nature mage plus a wild elf,
wow.
You're going to, I tend to go more dramatic with it. I've sat in a circle and drawn out runes on the ground, and when I commune with nature, actually written out conversations in, I know them as Norse runes, but they're essentially runes to me, and that's how I roleplay my rituals. So those tend to be moments that I am fully invested in being this nature barbar elf totemic druid.
But it seems like some of that's kind of predetermined. How about a spot that like just you look back and went, what? Like again, I guess being covered in dirt is.
Yeah, it's not normal. My normal go-to.
Well, you do draw runes. I know that's your go-to. But yeah, okay, drawing them on you.
Right.
Just you got so impassioned of like, yep, I'm writing on me now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a more, that really has been some moments that I'm just complete, or moments where I've hummed a complete song and not paid attention to what I was doing just because I was in the moment of actually doing the ritual. Instead of just sitting there and waving my arms and going and talking to myself for 5 minutes.
For sure. Do you find any of those moments come in combat?
Good question.
Do you see yourself in a position where, in a combat situation, you look and like, again, I say that because I've definitely done this and I hate talking about myself. I like talking, I don't like talking about myself. I hate to feel like I'm bragging factor. But I definitely had a position, and actually I told it in some of the otherworldly story panels at some conventions, where I was fighting the big werewolf in his trial, and as I'm running past the guy, you know, our friend Dave is, 6 foot something?
Yeah,
and
easily.
I drop down and slide past him. Like, I'm running past him to get to one of you guys that was in prison. And, like, I'm running toward him, and he's looking at me kind of, like, with an arched brow of, like, are you going to run into me, dude? And because the field was muddy, I was able to drop down and basically baseball slide underneath him, to which he takes a swing, and I duck under it. He's looking at me like, what, hot? Yeah. Okay, bro. Like, so that was definitely something going that I wouldn't have done that. And obviously there's a level of trust of him trusting that I'm not just going to, like, Batista power spear him or something. I'm going to bounce because I'm tiny. But I'll still take out a knee, maybe. And vice versa, knowing that he's going to look and not just, like, put his boot out and be like, and dead man.
I have to now clean that off of my shoe.
Right. slide, stop. Well, free bunk in the cabin. So there's trust that comes there, obviously, too, which is, I guess, a good thing. It allows you to have those moments and better or more naturally when you're able to trust that there's a level of safety on the line, too, I guess.
Honestly, you talking about the otherworldly stories does tend to remind me of, it has been horribly exaggerated.
To hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker?
Correct. Every time a certain friend of ours tells this story, she adds an extra layer.
Oh, it sounds like at this point you just used a planet to destroy another planet.
Right, apparently. But to tell the actual story, fighting undead in Grand Rapids, Nero Grand Rapids. Again, my character for Nero is a treant, for a lack of better word. So she has natural strength. And I'm big and large and bulky. And no, that's not a fat joke.
I ain't saying nothing. I'm in a car with 2 women. I ain't saying shit.
So, when we're fighting undead, I have a natural affinity to be... I'm not berserked, but I do get additionally aggressive.
You're aggressive against undead, because you are a nature-aligned, nature-created. You are the enemy of undead.
Correct. So, fighting a specific monster called a Death Jester in Nero Grand Rapids, James was playing this character, playing this monster, and the Death Jester's basic skill or basic go-to move is, as long as his feet are moving, he gets to have dodges. Unlimited defensives. So, completely being in the moment as a big giant treant, I stuck my arm out, grabbed him by the collar, and threw him. Now, James admittedly out of game trusted me and accepted my physical roleplay.
This is also a long established thing too. These are people that we play with on a regular basis. So, because we don't want to set the precedence too of
that this is okay to do.
Physical roleplay could obviously become a situation where not anybody could just do it. However, you do with anything else. You know when you're playing with friends how much roughhousing your friends can take.
Right.
And like my friends know that they can push me around and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if they want to just brute strength me, they can. And because they like me, they won't.
Correct.
Much like what you did, you know he's going to roll with it, and you're going to roll with it.
So he pratfalled and rolled with it, and stood up and was like, yeah, got all that, down.
Yep.
It basically killed him, because at that point he's no longer moving
on
his feet, and while he was rolling, I was hammering destroy undeads into him.
Right.
And
casting spells
casting spells into him that would affect him greatly.
Mm-hmm.
And he stood up, said, yeah, got all that, down.
And
dead,
crumbled.
And crumbled. That is, exaggerated into Dusty, big giant treant basically pulled a Groot.
Yeah.
And slammed one Death Jester into another undead, and that's how I killed them both. But that's not actually how it happened. So, but yes, it was very much it was very much a moment that I acted as a treant would, and not as Dusty.
You weren't thinking. You were just like, F it, I'm taking this guy and destroying him.
Correct.
Regardless of whatever I have, and it makes sense. And I asked that only because it is a case of, I definitely do have 2 mindsets, like when I'm fighting, when I'm in combat, and I do like the game, and I do get joked at for being a stick jock or whatever, but I do enjoy the combat aspect of the game. It's another reason why I play the game. The roleplay is great, and I consider myself a decent role player. I'm no actor by any stretch of the imagination, but I also like the aspect of being able to go toe-to-toe with people and practice fighting, and just the physicality of the game is great. And it does trigger another, I don't want to say a sixth sense, but it does trigger another mindset of like, even on the healer side, I've played a caster, I've played other things too, where I look and you start assessing the situation almost not as you, but of whatever character you're playing. You look at a situation and go, okay, me or you as Dusty or Dusty, or out of game even, could look at a situation and go, we want to minimize our losses, we want to do this. Where I've definitely been in situations, in group fights or town fights, I looked around and went, I don't care if every MFer here dies, these 3 people are walking out with me.
Right.
And that is a character decision, and so you start seeing how your actions are affected by that pre-established mentality. Hey, if everybody else dies, I don't care, these 3, 4, 5 people are walking out no matter what. So you start seeing your decisions swayed by that that preconceived notion or that preconceived character trait to go, hey, whatever, you took spells, or you basically look like the scene from Platoon where you're just pelted with arrows, you drop to your knees dead. You're not my concern. You, let's go. We gotta go.
So I'll take it a step further on that thought and ask you, have you ever had that moment out of game and in a real life scenario where you have become aware of your surroundings?
I mean, I've been to a lot of street fights growing up. I grew up in the city of Chicago, so I got my ass beat on a regular basis.
So the reason I ask it is because
question.
For me, I started playing young enough that LARPing made me aware of my surroundings.
Sure.
I used to go camping with my family when I was younger, and I don't remember a lot of the campsites when I was younger. However, because I've started LARPing, there's a lot more awareness when I go places now.
So you're thinking more of a question of what LARP skills has transcended into
real life
skills? That's a little bit. That's a straightforward of a question. I mean,
can you think of any?
I have found myself more. I mean, jokes aside, I've definitely put LARPing on my resume for job resume for like additional skills and talents and stuff, because there are definitely moments where through LARPing I've definitely become more patient and more understanding of people's skills and talents. And this goes into a case of when you're playing a game, obviously your rogue is limited to rogue things, or your fighter is limited to fightery things, or your casters are limited to castery things. It's more tropish compared to a person who could do a little bit of XYZ. But that said, I've worked with people that I know that are really good at technical things, but suck in customer service. So I will put them in a position to maximize their technical skills and not interact with customers. You stay under the stairs, Harry, until the customers leave. Or situations like that. But you start to identify. So if anything, I have come to identify strengths and weaknesses and abilities of people, be it verbally, be it physically, be it personality traits and quirks, that I've gained from LARPing as a rogue, as somebody that has to watch players, as somebody that relies on stealth attack, sneak attack, being clever, figuring out situations. I've come to, almost in a sense, I joke with you sometimes when I start plotting out worst case scenarios. Hey, if something goes negative or something goes pear-shaped, I've got this and this planned, bug out bag, so to speak. I've got those in place, and you're just like, why are you over-prepared? And I equate it to, well, it's something that my character
It's almost
would do.
become something as your personality.
It has become a bit of a personality quirk of mine where I do start looking at a situation or looking at a scenario far more critically than I have when I was LARPing. That said, I've also started LARPing more than half my life ago.
Right.
So, is it a character
Chicken
trait?
or egg?
Yeah, is it a character trait that developed because of LARPing, or is it just something that because I've done it so well, because I did it when I was so young, I was 18 years old, I'm still trying to figure myself and figure out life. Did it kind of sway that way? If I played an art scholar, or a healer, or a damage wizard, a sorcerer, or whatever, growing up instead of a rogue, how different have my personality have been? How different of your personality would have been if you would have rolled up fighter the whole time?
Right.
So chicken or egg type question for sure.
I know along the same lines of yours is I'm definitely better at delegating, and I've learned leadership skills from playing LARP and being a leader type personality.
Communication skills for sure.
Yeah, communication skills, being able to identify people's strengths and weaknesses and using them to delegate to get a job done. There's also my ability to, in a stressful situation, I can lock up and get stuff done, and then let the stress deal with the stress afterwards.
We call that bourbon.
If anybody, I don't think anybody's ever noticed it, and at least nobody's ever brought it to my attention. Before a mod, a big important mod, I will step aside, and after the conversation of this is what we're here to do, get your battle buddies, and getting delegation done and over with, I will step to the side and I will be by myself for a little bit to almost psych myself up to be like, okay, have I thought of every outcome? Have I thought of this is what needs to get done? Have I thought of everything that I can set this group up to be successful?
How much of that is character? How much of that is Kristen?
I don't know.
Is that much of I don't want to say bleed, but does that blur? I guess so. Oh, man, excuse me. Does that bleed or blur become something, again, chicken or the egg, has that become so ingrained in your personality type to a fault, for good or bad, that you start looking at more stuff like that, where you look and go, how are we set up for success? How am I set up for this? How is this? Like, obviously, it's easy to look and say it's a good trait.
Okay.
Like, looking at all things, I guess we could do a crazy question. Do you see any negative traits from LARPing that you've carried over to real life?
Ooh.
I don't want to sound negative all of a sudden here in a Positive Palace podcast, but are there any things that you can look and go, hey, here's some pratfalls of, or some pitfalls of LARPing this character for so long, or an ingrained personality trait? Like, I know I've definitely become, I don't want to say jaded, but there's a part of me that becomes cynical when dealing with people.
I was going to say that probably would be the only trait that has come across for LARPing is but I think that comes from actually it's going to sound weird, but it's kind of the world that I have developed in the books that I read, the geekdom in itself, as far as don't ever trust, it's kind of, go with me on this, but don't ever trust a skinny cook. It was something I learned from Wheel of Time. And it's kind of a mindset that I go through and go, okay, what are people's motives? What does this person get from this equation? And I don't want to say go into every conversation or friendship I have.
I got that growing up in a police family. Like, between uncles and parents, like, I definitely had a whole, like, my uncle was a lawyer, like, I definitely grew up with this person has an MO. What are they attempting to gain from it? What are they, so that for you transcended it from the character, from Dusty White, into who you are now, with a little bit of side of cynicism or skepticism going, they want something, or they're onto something.
And to kind of go back to your original question of if it's the character or me, I would have said the character before I had played my secondary, which is Psy.
Okay.
Only
your murder...
My murder hobo fox.
Murder hobo, white fox, the other face on the
icon,
on the logo. On the Grey Muzzle logo.
Only because I find myself having to role play harder as the indiscriminate murder hobo that Psy is, and not end up back in this leadership position of, okay, this person needs to do this, we need to do this other thing to be successful. I need to remind myself of, as long as I'm alive, and again, the 3 people I care about on that mod are alive, I don't care. I don't want to know the back history. I don't want to know why we're doing this. Just point me towards something I can kill and make sure I get paid at the end of the day.
So I guess a question for our listeners, got a little homework for you guys, is maybe to think about a character that you've played, be it a tabletop, be it a video game, or something that you've at least get identify with or change or whatever. And ideally a character you've created, because obviously every character you create has a bit of story of you in it, or at least an experience of you, or something to do with you in it. And come up with a second character or secondary, or think about how that secondary is different from you, and how hard or easy is it to slip into that second character compared to your first or primary, be it, again, through tabletop as well or through anything else. Do you find yourself halfway through a session or through a game looking and going, wait, I wouldn't say that, or this person wouldn't say that, or, no, my other character would say this, or personality traits that you find are so ingrained in you or that you try to change that went, ooh, wait a second, I have to actually think about this character so it is different from my other character.
So, to get back to questions, what does costuming and armor mean to you personally in your game? What about makeup? You go first.
Oof. Well, I mean, obviously it depends on the game. I'm not wearing makeup on a tabletop session. I'm not doing... Now, that said, I do wear a costume.
You do?
When I do the charity games, because I do want to be a showman. That's the thing about charity. People are paying money or throwing money at you to entertain at the end of the day. So I will be as entertaining as possible by bringing gimmicks, be it my big hat and a red doublet, be it a ukulele, slide whistle, whatever thing that makes noise when I'm playing this bard character for these charity D&D things. I'm going to bard up as much as possible. Make up songs, it's a shtick. But for me, it also helps get into that. Again, it goes back to the previous question. It helps me get into that character mindset of playing a happy-go-lucky, not cynical, very leadership. Which again, my LARP fox is not a leadership role type character. My bard, on the other hand, very much is a
face man.
I'm the face man. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is where we need to go. Listen, everybody, go. So, props for that does help me as a player get into the headspace of the character. But as an entertainer, hopefully goes towards the audience or towards the fans or towards whoever else to celebrate the, hey, look what I'm doing. And some of that was from, I can't remember the DM's name offhand, if you want to pull up real quick, but from Acquisitions Inc. Chris Perkins, as a DM, was kind of seeing him when he was doing the Acquisitions Inc. Story stuff. He would come in costume, and the Acquisitions Inc. guys would go on stage in costume, be it a cloak or a hat or a sword or some other crazy nonsense. It's entertainment value. It's entertainment for the audience, the fans, the donators, for whatever you want to call them, and it is putting on a show. So there is that for that. Obviously, when you're LARPing, it means the world. It also helps on the kind of LARP. Again, I kind of make fun of my own makeup for I play a fox, but it's really just red and white, because it is a weekend-long event, and there is physical combat and stuff. For me, trying to do prosthetics or trying to do a full muzzle or a mask becomes uncomfortable. It becomes a safety hazard in some cases, because I've wore a mask where I couldn't see. I've wore like a muzzle piece that had like a resin plastic at the bridge of the nose. And you ever get hit in the nose just enough to make your eyes water?
Yeah.
Like, that happened regularly, just because there's this thing sticking out. So I don't worry too much about makeup. I want to make sure that as much as me is covered, I want to give it the illusion of, hey, I am a fox. So nobody has to constantly ask, what am I? I use other techniques to show, I have a tail, I have ears, I have other things to say. I am not a human or an elf. I am clearly some sort of animal creature. That said, costuming, armor, all this other stuff, for LARP, obviously makes all the difference in the world. It's hard to convey what you're trying to play as or convey what you are when you're just unless you're a mage, and I've seen plenty of graduation robe or bathrobe mages.
Which, not to say is
bad. It's a great starter costume.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, you want to kind of start plotting and scheming past that. Because to me, it becomes more tropish. To me, a wizard isn't a guy in a robe and a pointy hat. That's not a wizard to me. I like the wizards that got some leather armor or got some, a look to them. Especially if you're a newer character. A level 1 mage shouldn't be long gray beard and a pointy hat and everything else. That's your level 40 Elementster, your old
you
mage.
Could do that.
No, obviously you can. I'm not poo-pooing anybody that does that. I'm
saying to go back to your point earlier that to not necessarily be talking about ourselves or how we costume ourselves.
Sure.
But what newer players could do to find costumes.
There was never a newer player on this. You asked what it was. So what do I think newer players can wear or can do to help boost their thing?
Yeah.
I mean, try to keep stuff like in period at the least. You
Okay.
know, try to stay away from, you know, giant wristwatches, or try to stay away from, you know, gym shoes, or, you know, obviously the big trope is a tabard, cargo shorts, and cleats.
Right.
Like, don't be that guy. They exist, but don't be that guy.
Nobody likes that guy, secretly.
No, you'll get told pretty much in some games, outwardly, don't be that guy. But what can you do? I mean, obviously, try to keep things simple. For a while, I wore jogging pants for some of my costume stuff, but it was enough coverage as well to help hide things. You know, I've taken armor pads and at least tried to,
Scuff
like
them up.
hockey pads or lacrosse pads, but I wore them underneath costumes, so it just built out my form without being very visible. Cover up logos, cover up, you know, stuff like that.
I know nurses' scrubs are a go-to.
Nurses' scrubs work really well too. Anything without a logo, you want to keep logos gone, or anything identifiable. You know, you want dude rolling up with
Nike swoosh
on his shoes and Adidas track pants and a Metallica t-shirt. Like, let's try to avoid. I mean, I used to turn my shirts inside out.
Yeah.
If I had a logo and I turned it inside out, so even stuff like that helps. And it does help build the view or the imagination, because I try to make sure that when I am dressed up, somebody else could look at me and let their imagination fill in the gaps.
That's
and
a
I
good
guess
call.
ultimately that's what you need to do, is try to let other people, give people the benefit of the doubt that they will fill in the gaps as long as you make an attempt. I know my makeup isn't great, but it is good enough and passable. Somebody look and go, okay, I see a 5 foot tall fox dude running around with a spear and a sword.
Right.
Got it. Not a hard stretch to do.
I would say my advice for anyone coming into the game and being hesitant about their costuming, start small. We do not expect, or I have never expected somebody that's coming in to be like, hey, I want to try out LARP, to come in fully looking like they came from a direction of the Ren Fair.
Right.
I've seen it, and there's almost an expectation from some of those players to be like, oh, you must be 20th level, or you must be, because of your costuming is so good.
And which is funny, though, because Ren Fair costume, like full Rennies, does not translate well for LARPing. Because you do have you have the delicate balance. We joked about this before. You have, like, first-year LARPers that will come in with, like, the bathrobe and the jogging pants and the very practical. I mean, my first couple games was a leather cowboy vest that I wore over a shirt and some jogging pants, add some makeup and a little cape and a Robin Hood hat. Like, I look like kind of Disney, like super fabulous Disney Robin Hood. Hey, good to go. However, in time, I hit a point of, holy crap, I want to get nicer and better costumes. So I started spending some money and started picking up stuff and making things. But then I started making a costume that went the other way of, it started looking so good and it started fitting so well that it was uncomfortable to wear for any length of time, or it wasn't
Practical.
It wasn't practical. I got mad when I bought a brand new pouch and all of a sudden it got scuffed up because I hit the dirt running or rolled around and stuff like that. So there is a, like, what year 1 and 2, you are definitely newbie, like jogging pants, scrubs, whatever else. Again, not knocking it.
And
It's
of course, saying year 1 and 2, you've obviously committed at that point, and you knew this was a hobby that you wanted to keep pursuing.
This is something I'm investing in. So because obviously after my first, like, my third event, I went to Ren Fair that summer and bought, like, a belt and a pouch. That was my first purchase. Okay, tangent. What was your first LARP purchase? Like, not just, like, costume in a bag. What was your first, like, this is my LARP purchase?
Oh, crap.
Like I said, for me, and I'll start to give you an idea, I bought a small pouch a small leather pouch, and a leather belt. And I knew that this was 100% could never really be used for anything else in practical life other than Ren Fair and LARP.
Does a sewing machine count?
You bought it specifically for LARP. I'll let that slide.
I started LARPing, and
it has other practical uses though. But.
Okay, I started LARPing, and I definitely fell for the costume in a bag. That was my first 2 costume pieces. Were costume in a bag, pirate wench, and a tavern wench. Those were my first 2 costumes. I can still post a picture of one of them, unfortunately. Actually, both of them.
Oh, you're going to post one up for our listeners, so enjoy. Continue.
So, I would say my first purchase, my mom actually purchased it for me because she saw that I was getting into LARPing.
She noticed this is your hobby now.
Yeah, and she got me a sewing machine. And I had a friend of mine, Ashley, she's actually a listener, she taught me how to sew.
Okay.
Full on taught me how to sew. Sewed my first skirt, and that skirt was awful and was not yours. Practical, but it was mine, and it was my first actual costume piece that I had, and I was proud of it. So, not I guess more practical purposes in the long run, but really only things I've ever sewed were costume pieces for myself or someone else.
Oddly enough, I had also received on my 18th birthday a sewing machine. Now, luckily, my dad helped teach me to sew, just because, again, him being a cop, had to sew his own patches and buttons and whatnot on his uniform and do repairs and stuff. And again, as he likes to call it, it's bachelor skills. Like, a guy should, now I'm going to sound sexist as hell, or I'm sure I'm going to get an email. I'd be like, gender normativity or whatever else. But no, I mean, my dad always gave me the thing of like, hey, look, they're bachelor skills. You should know how to cook. You should know how to clean. You should know how to do your own laundry. You should know how to dress yourself. These are things that just people should know how to do. Regardless, it's just one of those things. So I've learned how to cook. I've learned how to clean. I've learned how to sew, to fix things. But it's not much of a leap to go from, hey, I could fix a button, and hey, I could patch or hem some pants, to, I've got costume now. Yeah. I made a shirt. I made a pants. Or a pair of pants. I made a pants. A singular pants.
I kind of have been ruined, I should say air quote ruined, when I go to a LARP or to a Ren Fair now. I do see a lot of the costuming and go, oh no, I could make that.
You definitely, and I see when you're there, your eyes almost roll into the back of the head as if you're doing calculations for cost of the cloth, cost of the accessories, be it buttons, clasps, whatever.
Zipper, whatever.
Boning as well, anything else. Cost of material, your hours, and how you could either make it fit better or alter or whatever. And then you come back to reality going, no, okay. And then a month later, you're just like, I made a thing.
And or at that same moment go, no, that's easier just to buy it. Because leatherworking's not fun, kids, unless you have the correct material. Some of our friends do.
We have people that leatherwork, and leatherworking's fun, but there's a exponentially increasing cost. You could
and not necessarily cost, but labor time too.
Labor time too, but it's just physical cost. Like, you have to buy the leather,
right?
Which you can find on discount stuff and whatnot, but you still have to buy the leather. You have to know the processes of dealing with the leather. Then, when you start getting into your additional tools, then you start getting
cost. Yeah.
You're just gonna get. You're not gonna get. Sunk. Yeah, you're not just gonna get a piece of leather, cut it, and punch some holes and call it a day. You're gonna start getting rivets. You're gonna start getting hammers. You're gonna start getting your tooling stuff, because now you got a whole new skill. Because not only is it a tactile mechanical skill how to tool, but then there's an artistry, a beauty in the actual tooling to add your patterns, to do things. It is definitely a trait, a skill that takes both a technical aspect,
right,
and a level of artistry to do. It's not just I'll rag on electricians here. It's not just, I'm gonna make this light work, hammer the shit together, wire it up, tie it down. It's done. It's all technical. There could be some artistry to it, but it's mostly a technical thing. Whereas, yeah, for doing leather, doing metalwork, doing all that stuff, it's not just a technical skill, but there's an imagination. There's a level of artistry that has to go into it.
And I know we're kind of tangenting, but talking about armor working always, I go to people that we are friends with, and a shout out to, Brooks as far as his new helm.
Oh
was
my goodness.
super awesome.
The fact that he's just like, I'm just like, dude, how does that not fall off your head? And he's like, baseball cap. I'm like, that is genius. I never would have thought of taking a fitted ball cap, trimming it down so you keep the band that is fitted to his head, and building on top of it as a base to give him an idea of, okay, now I have an idea of what I'm working with. And again, everybody has a starting point, and he realized, like, hey, he said some of his other stuff took from other previous experiments of trying to do it, because shapes are hard, and...
And another shout out to Rob too for his daily armor
updates.
porn almost.
Easy.
We love it though.
I'm going to fly explicit on here.
But
and obviously we're talking on the Alliance South Michigan Discord. So if you're interested if you're into Discord and want to get into that, like, send us the email. We'll hook you up. I mean, we can try to get you into coming LARPing and stuff. And we obviously tangented hard because ultimately we're going back. We went to Roadcast. It happens. We did want to go into other pieces of costuming stuff. So have you ever tabletopped a costume or wore a costume piece or anything to help that with that mentality?
Tabletop, no. But on the flip of that, I've painted miniatures for tabletopping.
Ooh, okay.
In likeness of my character.
So that's an interesting. That could be a whole topic all to itself, because there's a level of, can you call that a piece of costume? Having a miniature on a table does help that immersion. It does. It's not a wearable costume piece. It's not a wearable costume piece, but it is a piece of your pieces of flair that you could put down.
Sorry, that caught me off guard.
A little piece of flair that you can put down and go, this helps with the visualization. This helps with the character. This helps get the mindset, which ultimately what costume does.
Right.
It's to fill in the gaps. It's to let people fill that gap with their imagination.
I will fully admit, I am not a good tabletopper. I like tabletopping. However, for me, if there is not a visual aspect to it, I find myself getting distracted. I used to have to explain to my DM, be like, I am immersed into your story. I like tabletopping, but I have to find something else to do with my hands. I fidget. So it would be, hey, I'm on my phone, I'm paying attention, but I'm on my phone. Or, hey, I'm drawing, I'm sketching, or I'm doing something else with my hands. Now, if there's a visual aspect, like a grid, a map, a figurine, we went as far as the DM purchasing, kind of what the actual buildings, like 3D printing mazes and stuff, so there was something visual aspect to stare at.
There's a tactile aspect. There's something to see, something you can touch, something you can inspect, and I get it.
And that engaged me way more than, oh, hey, we're doing, roll by roll or round by round. I've got to do something else with my hands.
Do you find yourself normally with a short attention span?
No, actually.
Okay.
I don't suffer from that problem.
And I asked that just because I know that I am bad when it comes to other things. If I'm writing an email, I can't have music or anything else playing. I can't, if I'm working on something.
So I don't see that as short attention span.
Well,
I see that as
I was asking if you were doing that.
But I'm saying I'm a multitasker.
Right, okay.
That's the difference. I don't see it as a short attention span but I could
you have
be
a better
doing
capability of
multitasking.
Okay.
Correct.
Better than me, for sure. Like, I'll admit that. I am good at multitasking, but I'm also distracted fairly easily if I'm doing a thing and then a good song comes on. I glue to the song and then blink and be like, wait, whoops.
What was I doing?
Yeah, what was I just doing? That's one of my flaws for sure. All right. I mean, we're pretty deep in, and we didn't get to the major question that I've been really kind of poking, seeing as I do have two ladies in the car, and I think that's the one we should ask and maybe end our podcast on, mainly because this is a question that transcends just the LARPing, and we've been very, very heavy LARP the last several weeks. And I want to go into more of the geekery and other geek aspects that will transcend just LARPing. And this is a perfect question that, while it's framed in a LARP sense, really touches all topics, correct?
Correct.
All right, go for it.
So the question is, according to multiple sites, the female population of LARP has risen and in some places exceeded the male population. Is there something that you attribute to the better age of LARPing? What do you think has changed or improved? And what can we do to make things even better? So I'll give a preface it to this question. And again, we do have Blue here in person, so we can get her opinion as well.
She should be able to be picked up pretty easily right there. You're fine. You guys are fine.
So I also had last Friday, had an evening with some of my fellow lady LARPers. And this topic...
Sounds like a bad pinup calendar, but...
Interesting you should say that, but that's a topic for another day. The ladies that I happen to be friends with are mostly LARPers. And we were sitting at a table and this topic came up and I brought out this question and got more of a well-rounded perspective of it. Because it's just my opinion, but it should be more female-heavy opinion, so for LARPers. So I will let Blue kind of give her opinion first, and I will go off of that.
Of course. I'm sitting here thinking, because it's the first time I've heard the questions, I'm like,
We bombarded you a little bit with it.
Yeah.
But we talked before too, you're a mother.
Yep.
So you are also raising nerds. And potential, you're raising geeks yourself.
Yep.
Which plays into a lot of that, growing up geek and all this other stuff.
It's true.
You've obviously been a geek yourself for how long have you considered yourself a geek for? When did you get into like D&D and all this other stuff?
About age 12.
Okay. 12? Okay.
So
because my brothers were all playing D&D.
So early 90s and 80s at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 90s.
80s. Okay.
I'm not
90s.
that old, thank you.
I'm
She's
around
younger,
that.
remember?
I
No.
get that.
I'm
How old are you?
37.
Yeah, okay,
She's
so-
1 year older than me.
Okay.
But it fits the same thing. Early 90s.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So what do you remember from the culture in the early 90s from a female perspective?
There wasn't many females, for one.
Which
It
was something
mainly-
we talked about, yeah.
I'm gonna say, it was mainly boys. Girls were obviously very objectified. I hate to say that, but
It's the truth.
That's
yeah, I was gonna say,
We
it's
were
true.
honest here.
It's like, even
There's-
though I know my brothers didn't do that, and maybe it's because it's my little sister, you can't, you son of a,
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've got 3 sisters, and I've definitely taken I definitely had more of a social awareness or social consciousness and a sensitivity, is the word I want to use there, to that kind of topic because I had siblings. I was just like, no, I wouldn't want my sister to be treated this way or objectified this way.
So I'm not going to do that.
So
to
I don't
another
want to.
female.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. These 3 girls look up to me as someone who is going to treat them fairly and properly, and so why would I do that to basically? Yeah, I don't want to be that kind of brother. I don't want to be that guy.
But yeah, it was like very geekdom and nerddom in general was just very closed off. Not many people wanted to admit to it, or if you did, it wasn't. If you did in your circles, it wasn't a
Big
huge
deal. But it was
to-
something you kept to your own circles.
Yeah, like I can remember. Like I'm old enough to actually remember the whole satanic D&D scare.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
Yeah,
I do
there
remember
was
that.
actually at one point I remember somebody came to our door pounding it down practically because my brothers had D&D books and their son was there and da 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 da. And my stepmother looked at this woman and went, "Are you freaking stupid? Have you even looked at these books?"
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, "Well, it's satanic," and she went, "It's math, reading, and they aren't in the street causing problems."
It's very true.
Which
So summing up from what the conversation I had with the other ladies that I spoke with, internet is your biggest change of why it may have become more acceptable for females to LARP. because you have access.
And not just LARP, but in gaming as a whole.
In general.
Gaming and LARPing.
Instead of your small town, and obviously I came from Springfield, so it's not necessarily small town, but in a local,
area.
Right, your immediate area, high school, you may have a handful of girls that are aware of something like geekdom or D&D or comics.
I can actually, yeah, because my best friend, Kelly,
Uh-huh.
I introduced her to geekdom via Final Fantasy VI, I believe. And then we had my friend Steph, who I introduced to geekdom via getting her addicted to video games.
Okay, so
It
you were a
spread
pusher.
from there.
Got it, you were a pusher.
Yeah, I was a
So
pusher.
it's I think to sum up the answer for most of the people that I've spoken to about this, it was the internet. It was the ability to connect to a larger community and
Outside
be
of the
accepted outside of your local area.
And that's very true. That might be a reason why geekdom in general has risen so much.
And that was one of the things I was going to say is that isn't necessarily exclusive to females, because even as a guy, like, there was being picked on and being into this kind of stuff. Obviously not to the extent that I don't want to take away from the lovely LARP ladies, but it is a case of the social presence of such things existing. We made jokes before of, like, thanks to Game of Thrones and thanks to Lord of the Rings, the movies, and other things being more accessible and knowledge of it being out there, more people get involved. And so there is a level of, you just cast a wide enough net and you're going to grab a bunch of people, and yeah, they're going to be females as well. You're going to have female gamers, you're going to have male gamers, you're going to have different walks of life, and not just, and to deviate from the question a little bit, you're going to have minorities as well.
Yeah.
You're going to see more minorities. You're going to see more persons of color, different backgrounds, Asians and Black, Hispanic, whatever you want to throw out there. You're going to see that community grow as well. Obviously, I think we talked with one of the owners of South Michigan that was like, yeah, we want to see more of that, because these other cultures have stories. And this could go with the ladies as well. You guys, kind of a mixed bag here. You all have different views and cultures and or viewpoints on topics that we make the joke of, I'm mostly white male from the suburbs, so I'm going to have a limited perspective. I could be well-read and well-versed and whatever. I'm still going to have a limited perspective. I'm going to be able to see certain things. It's rare when you get negativity from multiple viewpoints and multiple sources to gravitate.
I think, honestly, that's part of why the community as LARPers have, or even geekdoms, have improved, is because there's an awareness of people going, no, I have a limited perspective. Please share yours. And that's one of the things I think as a female in LARP has improved, is you have people that go, no, I'm not going to just keep running the same type of LARP and not bring females or not have a female perspective be represented. And that was another thing that we discussed on Friday, was strong female LARPers bring more strong female LARPers.
And that's also important because, what you said, one, females got to feel like they're being listened to.
Absolutely.
Because that also helps them feel safe. One of the things I remember thinking the first time I walked into South Michigan was I looked around and I went, holy crap, there's a lot of girls here.
Yep.
I was used to a game where there was lots of guys. And growing up with 5 brothers, I didn't care.
Right.
But walking in, I was like, wow, that's a lot of girls. And I'm like, this is good, because it immediately makes me feel safer, which is very important in a LARP.
And that's something that a lot, honestly...
Well, it goes to the joke I make with the at my little foyer or whatever at my apartment that has that big open play place or whatnot.
Yeah.
If you don't see people at a park, it makes you wonder what's up with the park or what's up with the area.
Why
so
is
if
it unsafe?
If you don't see girls at a LARP, or you don't see persons of color, you don't see, if it's just, you roll into a woods and it's just a bunch of white dudes sitting there, it makes you look and go, okay, what kind of atmosphere is being fostered here?
Right.
Like, obviously, and I'm going to give a shout out to South Michigan. One of the first things they do during their PC talk is go, we have a zero tolerance harassment policy. And
harassment of any kind.
Harassment of any kind. We have zero tolerance for that. We will listen to everybody's case and ensure that and if you are uncomfortable speaking to, because the owners are all male, if you're uncomfortable sharing, we have a female here that could also listen to your case and be a representative as well if you feel unsafe or feel that you just get uncomfortable with it. So right out the gate, they established a fact. There's zero tolerance to anybody's bullshit, and to right out the gate let everybody know that we're not going to foster that kind of toxicity. We're not going to foster that kind of the boys club and the no girls allowed, or the, gender stereotypes or gender discrimination or even racial discrimination. Like, we're not tolerating that. Everybody here that wants to play this game will have an opportunity to play what they want, and we will encourage it. And as long as you want to do that, there are other people here that understand and will encourage you to be that character or to play your game or to, obviously as long as you're following the rules, you're fine. Follow the rules and play your game. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing, just play with the rules.
And there's just a level of trust that you have to give to that plot team or any plot team that has that zero tolerance policy, that they're going to follow through and that it's going to be taken care of. So you have, again, as Blue said, this trust and go, okay, I'm okay. I'm safe. I don't have to necessarily be my own defender. There's other people out there looking out for me. So on that note,
I think that'll pretty much wrap it up here. And as always, hey, again, I am super happy and I'm glad that topic got out there, and it's a damn good question because it is something that we are noticing more and more. There's more female gamers. There's a lot of games that we play that have more of a female input, and having female storytellers as well also bring a viewpoint that we, again, I'm going to go tag myself as we'll call myself the ignorant male, but I'm in save me, I'm in a car with two ladies, I am the dumb male. But, I mean, we'll call myself the ignorant male, whatever else. But, my perspective is always going to be limited. I understand that. And having three sisters, I've come to realize that there's going to be situations and things in my life that I will almost never have to worry about. I have not walked to my car with my keys in my knuckles because it's dark and I'm worried. I get that. So, having other people's perspectives, having other people's stories and what they view as valuable, you'll have different viewpoints of, Blue here, she's a mother. I am not a parent. So to me, kids aren't a motivation for me. They can be for her, though. So telling a story based on children, telling a story with children as an element, and seeing somebody grow up and having a familial bond is a cool and possible role play element or story or whatnot, where me, as not a parent, could look and go, burned your orphanage down. There's kids inside. Did I stutter? So it's good to see certain things. And again, we even bring up with different races and different people from different backgrounds. I would like to see Asian perspectives or Asian stories or I guess African folklore. African American or African excuse me, or to see African folklore or even indigenous other folklore that would be interesting to see and run in these settings that aren't stereotypical or aren't insulting, and rather pay homage to these stories that we take. We have stories of dragons. These are one of our folklores. So why not dance on these other creatures and these other mythical stories that are bigger than life that would fit perfectly in these kind of games?
True.
So anyway, that wraps it up. Again, we're always willing to answer your crazy questions. I'll let the outro do it for us. So until then,
I'm Dusty White.
I am Dusty Red, and with us in the back in the trunk is
Blue.
And we'll bid you a wonderful good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/Grey Muzzle Geekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at Grey Muzzle Geek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.